Ho, ho, ho.
Take two. We just watched
Christmas
on the Alpaca farm. And I think it was made this year, wasn't it?
I don't know.
I think it said it was this year, 24. It started with a designer who was working for a somewhat big brand, and she is very into knits, and so she had wanted to do a line of sweaters, and they didn't want to.
No, she wanted to do a line of sustainable sweaters.
Yes.
All local alpaca fur from some guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
the person who she was working for was like, haha, that's good in theory, but no, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
And so I think she quit then, didn't she?
Yep.
She was like, okay, I quit then. And she followed.
So before she quit, she met the guy that
the alpaca farmer.
Yeah, the alpaca farmer that supplied all of her fleece for this row of sweaters or whatever.
Oh, no. Okay, so
and then
we watched the beginning of this a couple days ago, so we're like remembering this with you. Remember what happened was the guy came in all pissed off because there was something like incorrect with them, or what was the
that was
there was something defective.
That was they canceled the order with him. Yeah, so
there was something defective.
Hold on.
Okay.
So they met. She was all super hyped because she did this sustainable fleece thing, and she met the guy, and they were flirting and talking about stuff, and she didn't know he was the alpaca farmer until the end. She thought he was a model or something.
Yeah.
And so he gets pulled away to go meet with the girl's boss, and that's when they tell him that there was something wrong with some of the fleece. There was a defect in the order, and they needed to replace thousands of sweaters overnight.
Yeah.
And he was like, we can't do that. So they terminated the contract with him and fired him after the girl was kind of hyping him up and saying that he was this farm is going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
So then she goes in and is arguing with her boss about they're not really defective. They're just it's just.
I don't think there was a defect.
Yeah, there wasn't a defect.
They
just
defect.
Didn't like him or whatever. So she quit after that argument
because the brand wanted to do. They said, "Oh, we only do synthetic blend."
Yeah.
And it was actually wool that they had talked about. I don't think they had worked with alpaca before, because even the girl.
This guy because he was the alpaca farmer.
No, I know, but the girl didn't know, because remember she even was like, "How was your wool made?" And he's like, "Well, actually, alpaca is called fleece."
Well, yeah, but that's just her not knowing the terminology, I think, because she worked with him and said that they were going to be up and coming, and then he got fired because they couldn't replace thousands of sweaters overnight. They were like, we need to replace this order in 2 days, and he was like, well, I can't do that. So they fired him.
Yeah.
And pulled the contract, and he had to lay off a bunch of people. And so that was the beginning of it. And then she quits her job and decides that she's going to enter this this contest for a Christmas line.
Mm-hmm.
And if she wins this contest, she gets $10,000 and her line of holiday sweaters
In some very big designer brand that was in the US, also Paris, Milan, somewhere else, I don't remember. But anyway, it's a big department store. And so she was like, okay, well, I can do this. This is my time to shine. So she goes to the guy's farm.
She stalks him.
Yeah. And so she shows up, And he's like, oh, I'm not interested or whatever. So then she like goes into town and goes to like an alpaca yarn store and meets his sister. And the sister right off the bat is like, oh, that poor boy, like my baby brother, his wife died, and he's just never been the same, and it's been in our family for years, and he wants to sell it, and all this kind of stuff, like very like oversharing.
Love the accent.
Yeah. And so the girl was like, oh no, like da-da-da. So then the sister brings her back. They decide to decorate his house.
Yeah.
From the outside.
Like, sneakily decorate
his house. And so then he comes home. He has a daughter. And he's like, what are you doing? And she's like, oh, just put her up in the guest house, baby brother. And she needs to make some sweaters. And so I don't think there actually was a guest house because she was staying in the main house.
Yeah, so they were working, like he somehow convinced her, or she convinced him to like let her try this out and promised that there would be no synthetic blends, like ultra
sustainable.
Weird,
she's very
ultra weird plot line about how there cannot be any kind of blending of his fleece.
No, because he was just very like, yo, this is my family's business.
Yeah.
And we're all about like community, local based sustainability. And that was her shtick. Yeah. And so Flannery Farms, that's the alpaca farm. The alpacas are very cute.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot of involvement with the alpacas outside of a couple of montage. They do the clips of them playing around outside, and then they'll have like one or two scenes where she's trying to wrangle an alpaca.
She's trying to wrangle them, and she's like, oh, this one doesn't like me or something. And then I think she gave it like carrots or something. I don't know. And then all of a sudden it magically liked her.
Yep.
So he makes her like work the stables for a few days so she can really like get a feel for what goes into this. And that gave her a deeper appreciation of what actually happens. And then he showed her how they like spin their own wool and dye it and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes to the sister shop, and each bundle of yarn or whatever is like, oh, this one came from Milk Chop,
Yeah, all the yarn has the names of the alpacas on it.
Yeah.
Milk Chop is a solid name, by the way. But yeah, so it's like the whole family affair. The guy is making the wool, and she's learning how to dye it, and she's designing all these sweaters.
Mm-hmm.
And the sister is helping her knit the sweaters because she has like 2 weeks to knit 7 or 6 sweaters for the
different
fashion
designs.
show.
Yeah.
And so they're scrambling, and like the first couple of things, like she breaks his spinning wheel, and then she ruins the first batch of fleece when she tries to dye it, and makes it this like awful black, like she was trying to make like a color and just kind of made a mixture of it was like the Dr. Pepper of blending colors, where she just threw a bunch of everything in there and thought that she knew what she was doing, and it just came out like a blackish gray blob and he's just like, good job, pats her on the head, and then they go on and continue on with all these little, like, she's learning how to do stuff.
Yeah, and so it just shows them. Apparently, she was there for like weeks.
Yeah, it was like 3 weeks.
Like living in his actual house.
Yeah.
And they're, making all their meals together. She's making cookies, and she's decorating the inside of his house.
And playing with the
child. Yeah, and this kid is like the most polite child ever. And I was like, kids aren't like that.
Yeah,
but
she's like, she looks like Lily from Modern Family but like in an ultra polite way. So
Ultra
she's
polite.
absolutely not anything like the character Lily.
No.
Like,
She's like, Daddy, can I play in the snow? And she's like 12. She's like, Daddy. And he's like, yes, little Georgia.
yeah. So she starts getting fond of the girl, and they do this, like, she finishes 5 of the sweaters, and then they had to do a photo shoot of the whole thing.
Yes.
So that was ultra fun because they did like a bunch of various shots and everything, and then they came to the end where they were going to do couples shots.
Well, hold on. Can we talk about how... Okay, so she designed the 6 different shirts, and it shows them like from morning till night, and they're wearing the same shirt for all their shots.
Well, sweaters, but yeah,
sweaters. Sorry,
they didn't bother to change into the other.
I know that was sweaters. So weird.
But so it was just your typical flirting and taking pictures of them outside doing weird things. Like, she's in a barn and he's like, he's coaching her. He's like, act like Santa's off in the distance, and she's over there in the barn, like that's a thing. Like, and he's like, okay, well, now just look like you're excited to see Santa. And so then they do a photo shot of him outside, and he's being obstinate and not wanting to participate because he looks stiff, and she's like, you gotta loosen up, shake yourself out, like, be ready.
So then they get to the end where they're by the fireplace and they have to do a couple shot. And she's like, okay, let's, like, you know, we're not a couple, I know this, but let's pretend to be a couple. And so they take a picture together. And they both think, oh my gosh, this is the most amazing picture. Like, look at the chemistry, like, that's in between us. All right, we're going to show you what it looks like. Ready? All right. Here, you're the boy.
Well, yes, I am.
Okay, go. And that's what they looked like in this picture. It was like, we said, like, what? Because it, like, zoomed in on this picture, and they were like, oh.
They're going over, like, they did a bunch of, like, here's a gift, and, like, funny shots like that, and things like that. And then the final one that they focus on is the one where they're, like, she's resting his head on his shoulder, and
she looks scared. She's
super awkward. And they're like, oh, this is a good one. And we both just started laughing because it was like, oh yeah, it's totally normal, natural, fluid photo of 2 complete strangers looking like they're terrified of the other person.
They did. They looked terrified of each other, or like physically in pain. So that was weird. But then let's see. So she enters the prize.
Yeah.
And of course she wins. Woo!
Well, not yet.
No, she didn't.
So she's planning on getting ready to go, and Georgia, the child, asks if she could stay a little longer. She's like, well, of course I have to stay a little longer because I still have to make your holiday pageant thing.
Which apparently only the mom used to do.
Yeah. So she was upset about that. It kind of reminded me of the Simpsons episode where Marge gets a gambling problem and Homer has to make Lisa's thing and makes her into the state of Florida, because the story behind it was that the girl was super upset about it because the previous year the dad didn't do it, and 2 years ago he did it but like forgot and did like a half-assed last minute race to get her something, and it ended up looking really shitty, like in the Simpsons episode. And it was because the mother who passed away used to do that for her all the time. And so she was excited to have someone else there to do that. So they made a little thing, and that was a little adventure. And then she goes to school with her costume, and they're like talking about doing a date afterwards.
Yes. But
And
then she gets a call, and it's New York, and it's Beverly Leslie or something. And he's like, you have won. And so she was like, that's what he sounds like. That's what he sounds like.
He sounded like a snooty rich guy. He
Beverly Leslie
he's like,
here.
hi, I'm Beverly. Like
Beverly.
And it was just, so he tells her, like, oh, you won. Congratulations.
The catch is we got to use some synthetics in your thing. And of course, she's like, yeah, absolutely. Like, this is my dream. We will do this. So then the guy comes home and she's like, oh, guess what? We won. And he's like, yeah. And she's like, you don't have to sell your farm, because he thought he was going to have to, because he had to lay off all his workers because he couldn't afford them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, oh my gosh, yeah. And she's like, oh, there's a small catch. It's going to be synthetic. And he's like, that was the one thing that you promised it would not happen. And she goes, do you want me to give up on my dreams? And he was like, you promised that it wouldn't be like, this is my family's legacy. And she was just like, it's my dream.
She's like, she was like, I just this one time, and then once I'm in, my foot's in the door, I'll be able to do this and do it sustainably. And the dude's like, cool story, like, go nuts. I'm not participating in this.
He's like, find another guy then.
Screw you. You said, like, this was the one thing.
The only thing he said.
Yeah, and she was like, oh, but I promise. And he was like, yeah, you promised before, and look where we are now.
Yep.
So she storms back off to New York City, and he stays upstate.
Yep. And so then her friend comes over, and on a very flimsy couch,
Tells, like, they give them, they have their little reckoning discussion where she's like, oh, well, it's okay. You learned from him, and you'll be able to get back out there and learn and find your true love, and blah, blah. And so she's preparing for her grand fashion show and reveal and everything.
And so I kind of liked it, to be honest.
What, the fashion
We'll talk
show?
about that in a second. So they have this like little dippy fashion show, and so let's set the scene. There's like reeds, reeds that like cattails, that stuff that come out of pond, and they had like Christmas lights all around them on either side. And then in the background is like a blurry like fever dream of like a video of alpacas like walking around in the distance.
It's like footage of the farm.
Right, of course. One thing that we forgot to say is she invented a whole new color, because it's supposed to be like Christmas and, red, green, whatever. And so she's like, close your eyes, Alpaca Man, and what color do you see on Christmas Day? And he's like, blue, the bluest sky there is.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's kind of odd, because when I look outside on Christmas Day, it's like white. But so yeah, the blue. So she invented Flannery blue for them.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to the, alpaca and reeds and everything like that. So I kind of liked her fashion. So the girls all had, sweaters, of course, but they had like,
well, they were all sweaters.
Big flowing like ballerina skirts, like, and everyone was wearing a crown. But tell what there were guys too. And the guys came out, crowns like this.
Just cinnamon
sticks, like all the way around. It looked like some weird pagan, like, ritual.
This one dude comes out, and he's just like stomping up there, like looking like he's throwing a tantrum and about to, like, he looks like a 27-year-old version of a 2-year-old stomping and about to shit their pants, and just like, I'm mad, me, and he's just like trying to like look like he's got attitude, and it just looks so hokey and ridiculous, and like
that was kind of odd, but it was a vibe. It was definitely a vibe.
Yeah.
And so the little girl, the sister talked to the guy before this, and she was like, baby brother, what's more important than this farm? Family, and love trumps all. And so, she convinces him, and the daughter's like, Daddy, I have never seen you happy since mommy with this girl. So So please, can we go? And he's like, you're right, Georgia. And so
They raced to New
raced to
York.
see her, and they showed up at the fashion show. So that was cute because like it showed that even though she was gonna be a total whatever, he was still being supportive of her, even if she was going to do the synthetic route.
Yeah. So they do the fashion show. She comes out, thanks everybody. And right before the fashion show, she met with Beverly again and was like, want to talk business? And so the end of the fashion show, she comes out and basically unveils the whole thing. They originally said that she needed to do synthetic blends because
Hundreds of thousands of
they weren't going to be
sweaters.
able to do, like, they weren't going to be able to mass produce enough to stock the 4 like overseas locations.
Right.
So she came out and gave her spiel about wanting to do like family-based Christmas stuff that was fully sustainable and
Low batch,
yeah.
high quality, or
so
something
she
like
was
that.
so proud to announce that the store is gonna do a limited run of sustainable, like 100% fleece sweaters. So that was like the big unveiling, and then they go, they end the show. She goes backstage. She somehow, in the crowd of like 20 people, did not see that the guy was there.
In the front row.
In the front row with like
50,
2 dozen roses.
Yeah, roses.
So they go in the back and she's like, all right, well, that was great. Like her assistant or friend or whatever was like, that was great. That was awesome. Let's go out to the bar and go get get some drinks and celebrate. And she was like, I don't feel like it. And then Georgia peeks behind and is like, yay! Comes running back. And then the guy comes back and gives her the roses, and they go out into the stage and talk something. They're like, talk a little bit. And he apologizes to her for not trusting her and said that he would love for her to come home with him.
Because home
is where she is.
Is where she is. And the house hasn't felt like a home since she left. And she was like, home? And so then it shows that she goes there and he's building another barn for her that's strictly for her fashion.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yeah, it was fun. We expected more out of the alpacas, but,
We thought there was going to be more of a controversy, like, which I was pleasantly surprised that it wasn't.
Yeah.
Normally there's like, some like weird little bullshit things, but I don't know. I liked this one. Like the actress was very flaccid. Like she didn't really have a lot of range of emotions. The guy kind of too. But I liked it.
Yeah, it was fun. What would you rate it?
I'm going to say an 8.5.
I was going to say, I'd say an 8. It was fun. It was silly. Yeah, it was a good watch.
It was a good watch.
We would recommend it.
Alpacas.
Yeah, Christmas on the alpaca farm.
Bye.
Adios. Till next time. Merry Christmas.